Hamatakwepe, Mima Lakota. Imaganta hão a 15 tios pai, que lê resapa quem. Lilo wakan. Mitaki e ate tashunka witko tios pai. Mitaki e ina wambli zuya tios pai. This is a traditional greeting of my people that I am bound to give, albeit it's a short version.
What is up, you heathens and demons, you sinners and saints, you beautiful, blasphemous bastards? Welcome back to the Raging Atheist. We're in between seasons here, so I'm really taking my focus back to the thing I'm most passionate about, and that is the rights and the equality of my people, the Native American Indian. Now, I'm of mixed blood. I'm dominant Irish with a good chunk of Cherokee. And I've talked about, kind of my past and in one of these videos, as I cover the genocide, as I cover Native American relations, I plan on getting back into the No DAPL protest and finishing that series up. All as I'm making the content for season 3. And also I'm going to be putting out the Stand for Equality videos. So this channel will continue to be active, even when I was planning on taking a break. I just can't take a complete break. Now, I'm not going to be rushing to make videos. I'm not going to be rushing to get season 3 out. I'm going to focus on what I try to be active in, and that is the fight for equality. And too often I focus on other groups, and I don't focus enough on my own. So I really want to kind of veer my focus back to my own people and their own plights, because I consider this to be one of the biggest tragedies in the history of humankind. And I think it needs to be talked about, and I think it needs to garner its allies, and this should be on the breath of every American, that we have learned a history that's false. And we have demonized an entire people that we committed genocide upon. And Thanksgiving is coming up. And, I often spend Thanksgiving trying to tell the real history of Thanksgiving, or talking shit about Thanksgiving. And I'm going to start doing that a little bit this year, but I don't want to talk shit. I want to relay the true history. And I want you guys to understand how Native Americans feel about the holiday. So today I'm going to be looking at one of my heroes, Russell Means. Now, in the intro there, you saw a greeting he did when he went before Congress back in '89. And Russell Means has been a longtime hero of mine. He's one of the first activists that I ever idolized. And I'm going to really get into Russell Means. I plan on covering, his congressional testimony, his activism, some of the things that he's done. But today, I'm going to look at his opinion of Thanksgiving, as well as give you a taste of what I've talked about on this channel for a long time. And that is how America has fed you this false history. America has tried to make its history noble, and it has fed that to its children generation after generation after generation. But there is a real history out there, remembered by the people decimated by it. So today, I want to look at Russell Means, what he thinks about Thanksgiving, and just maybe blow your mind a little bit on American history.
Well, joining us today on the Orange Couch is longtime Native American activist Russell Means. Some of you may recognize him from his various acting roles in film and television. But as an activist, he was the founding director of the American Indian movement, leading several occupation protests in the 1970s, which called on the US government to change its policies towards Native Americans.
Now, this is Russell Means in his later years, and as the guy said, Russell Means is most known for his movie roles. He's probably most known by the federal government for his activism, but most people know him by his movie roles. He's been in a lot of really popular movies. Last of the Mohicans was the first movie I ever saw him in, and I didn't even realize that Russell Means was the last Mohican in that movie. So, this has been a hero of mine for a really long time. And he has a different politic than I do. I think most natives do. And it's something that I've been really trying to look for again is getting away from being a Democrat and getting back to being that anti-government activist that I used to be. Anti-American government, anti-lie. It's why I've always fought for a better government. It's why I've always fought for a better system. And even though I talk about myself as being a constitutionalist, as understanding the Constitution, understanding how to argue the Constitution, at the same time, I don't really believe in the Constitution. I think that it's all false doctrine. I think that it's fake history. And I really want to try to start talking about some of the real history I've learned from Native Americans. Now, the easiest way to do that would be to get some of the Native elders on here to talk to you guys. Unfortunately, most of the ones I know don't want to come on an atheist channel. So that has been a struggle, and I'm trying to figure out, like, how could I give you some of these, some of this history that I have learned? How can I relay that to you in the most accurate way? And I think the best thing to do would be for me to just start talking to the elders again, refresh my brain on what they've told me, and try to relay that to you as best as I can.
You know, today's Thanksgiving. Over 300 million Americans are celebrating this day, which deals with the very foundation of their country. You are not. And tell us why.
Well, we have always referred to this as thanks-taking because of the lies of the American government from day one.
And I really love how Russell Means just spells it out. You know, he doesn't mince words. We've always called this thanks-taking. This has never been a holiday that natives have venerated or looked forward to or saw with any positive light. This has always been a holiday that brings up that genocide, brings up the lies the American government tells. Now, in a future video, I'm going to look at some Native Americans talking about Thanksgiving and how they've kind of adapted the holiday to be a day of remembrance, a day of recognizing that, hey, we are still here, we have survived the genocide, and I think that that's an important message as well. But the first message I want to get out there is that to Native peoples, this is not a good holiday. You know, this isn't a holiday about the Pilgrims and the Natives having that first feast and being thankful for everything. This is a holiday about the American genocide.
The reason for the revolution, the American Revolution against the King of England, was because they wanted to expand the 13 colonies, the original 13 colonies. See, the King of England had made a treaty with the Indian people west of the Allegheny Mountains, Appalachian Mountains, so that there would be no further expansion. In order for Washington, General George Washington, to expand his holdings because he was the largest landowner in colonial America.
And this is some of that history I was telling you about, how Native Americans, natives, have a very different memory about American history. And it's a history that you're not taught in school. And it's a history about expansion. It's a history about taking land. It's a history about murder and genocide. And you're not taught that in school. And what you are taught about the genocide is very general and very broad, and more times than not paints the Indian as the aggressor and the Americans as just the defenders of this new democracy. So here, Russell is talking about a treaty that the King of England had made with Indians west of the Appalachians. That England would not go past the Appalachians with their colonies. And the rich landowners of the time didn't want to follow that edict. They wanted more land. They wanted to expand. They wanted to create more territories. They wanted to push all of the Indians in the that was east of the Appalachians. They wanted to push them farther and farther west so they could continue to take their lands east of the Appalachians, but they had their eyes on those lands west of the Appalachians.
He wanted to go beyond the Appalachians, the mountains, the Green Mountains, the Blue Mountains. And in order to do that, he had to violate the orders of the king. So the only recourse for the landed gentry of the colonial empire was to revolt against the King of England. It had nothing to do with the Stamp Act. It had nothing to do with taxation without representation. It had everything to do with the land grab.
And really, you know, that makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Like, I remember studying U.S. history, studying the Revolution, and I always thought, you know, like, what, they got pissed over a very minute tax, you know, and that's the mantra you hear growing up in school is we revolted, taxation, no representation, blah, 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 blah. You know, that has become a mantra throughout American history when a segment of a population feels like they're not being represented in Congress. Currently, you know, atheists, we have very little representation in government. And it becomes this mantra, but it's a fake mantra. The colonialists always had their eyes on taking it all. They always had this idea of manifest destiny, that this was God's providence, that they take this land, tame this land, and make it their own. But there was a problem, and they called that problem the Indian problem. And they tried to exterminate that problem off of the face of the planet. And that's the history that you don't get. And that's the history that they have changed. And even that changed history has become subject now to even more whitewashing as they talk about how evil CRT is, or they talk about how you know, evil teachers are trying to paint America as this evil dynasty. And no, teachers are trying to teach the accurate truth that they have had. And even that accurate truth that they think is an accurate truth, but really isn't an accurate truth, not if you go and ask the natives, even that is too much. Even that needs to be whitewashed more. You know, and he makes this really great point about George Washington, who was the biggest landowner of the time, who wanted more land. So he is more than willing to be the general that went up against King George. And it goes to show that from its very beginning, Americans have venerated the richest among us, have propped them up, allowed them to just take it all from the very beginning of our country. And I have to ask, when will we have enough of that? When is enough enough? And when will we take our country back? I want to thank y'all for watching the video. If you liked it, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, share me on your social media, comment in the comment section below. Your input is the only thing that's going to grow this channel. And for my patrons, you guys that are still with me, you guys rock. Your support means everything. And you're going to get to see all of the videos for Season 3 before they ever hit YouTube, months before they hit YouTube. So that's going to be my little treat for you guys, just to thank you guys for your support. And I am thinking about doing an occasional live, you know, something that like I might put on the channel as a video, but I'll do it live just for you patrons. So, and I'll try to announce that ahead of time. I know usually when I do lives on Patreon, nobody shows because I do them in the middle of the day. You don't have much notice. So, you know, that's going to be something that I'm going to be trying to do for you guys in the future. And I am definitely not done with this topic. You know, these videos don't get watched as much as my other videos, but I think that these videos are my most important videos. And I'm damn sure going to tell this story.